Welcome back to Under Par Acres. We've had a great summer and some beautiful evenings which we've taken full advantage of by using our new tee box at the top of our driveway. But now it's time to get back to work on the tee box and build a retaining wall around it to make it look nice. We got started last weekend when we bought 40 landscaping stones at Home Depot to force us to get started on this project. And we're going to need another load of the crushed gravel, but for now we're going to go up to the tee box and we're going to dump off the stones, and we're also going to roll up the fringe turf that we're not going to use. We bought a total of 40 stones, but only ended up needing 31 of them, and we also bought 2 bags of paver sand to help get everything level. Next up, it was back to the landscaping store where we bought another cubic yard of crushed gravel. Once we got back home, we loaded up the gator with all the tools we were going to need for this project, and then we drove on up to the tee box to get started. And on our way there, we ran into a couple of drifters who we thought might be able to provide a little bit of extra help, so we picked them up and brought them along. Once we got the gator up there, we parked it next to the tee box and then had to go back down and get the truck again as it was filled with the crushed gravel, which we were going to need right away. The first step of this project was to build a solid and level base to start stacking the stones. To do this, I have to do one of my least favorite tasks of screening the gravel to remove the big rocks and get it down just to the fines. Now I could have bought bags of paver base to do this, but at $5 a bag, I estimate we would have used about 15 bags, and therefore we're saving about $75 by doing it this way. When building a retaining wall into a slope, I would almost always start at the low side and work my way up. But on this job, I want the top of the wall to be a specific height, so I'm going to start on the high side and work my way down. Once I've got the base to where I want it, we're going to pull out the 200-pound plate compactor and get it out of the gator. Fortunately this time it went a lot smoother and according to plan. Once I've got that done, I'm going to drive around to the garden area where I've got 225 feet of hose that I'm going to need for compaction. And I'm going to drive over to where the RV is parked and where I have a water hookup so I can hook up the hose, get it untangled, and then take it up to water down the sub base before I compact. I don't want to get the base soaking wet, I just want to get it nice and damp, as that'll make it compact really nice and really smooth. And then it's time to run the plate compactor over the area that we're going to lay out the stones. Before laying the stones out, I'm going to check it with the level, and I'm not going to place the stones until it's perfect. Fortunately, we were perfectly level, so now I'm going to start laying out the stones. At this point, I'm starting to get a glimpse of what the final product will look like, and now it's time to start working on the curve and working our way down the slope. I lay out the stones in the curve shape that I want, but then I'm going to go back and screen some more gravel, because at this point we're going downhill and I'm going to have to do some adjusting to keep everything level. The most important part of this process is that I'm constantly checking for levelness, and I'm not going to move forward until everything is perfect, and then we're just going to water it down a little bit and compact it and keep checking. When I get to the bottom part of the wall, this is where we're going to have to make a step down. So now I'm going to have to dig a trench out so that we can get a lower level down and make everything line up properly. And I go ahead and lay out the bottom stones just to see how it's looking, and so far I'm very pleased with where this thing is going. And while we're not far off, we're also not perfectly level. So we got a little more work to do, and we're going to get some paver sand out because we got to get it level before we can add the second layer. This is another very important part of the build, is I've got to get that first stone perfectly level and lined up with the top layer of stones before I can move on. And once I've found that I've got the step down looking good and level, it's time to move on and level the rest of the trench out and build up that bottom base of stones. Once again, I'm going to constantly be checking the levelness of each stone, and I'm going to add paver sand as I go to make sure it's perfect. If everything works to plan and the stones are level, then when we get to where we have to take that step up to connect with the top row, it should all work out. It is starting to look really good, but most importantly, when I run a level across it, everything is checking off. Now there was a small gap between the last two stones, but that's no big deal because I had room to push the top row back a little bit and get everything evened out. Once I've got it where I'm happy, I'm going to take the top stones off. We're going to use Gorilla construction adhesive, and we're going to glue the top stones to the base. Once we are completely finished with the retaining wall, it's time to go back to our pile of crushed gravel so we can fill the pit up and we can have the mat sit nice and smooth on the top. I'm filling it with the crushed gravel while routinely watering it down and compacting it. And then when we're just about to the top, I'm going to screen a little bit more gravel to try to get that last inch perfectly smooth. Once we have it just about fully level with the top of the stones, it's time to go into very minute detail with the screen gravel to try to fill in all the cracks we possibly can. This stage, it was nice to know that we had the hard work done and all the heavy lifting was behind us. And next up, we were going to come in and do the final detailing before we put the mat down. We used the second bag of paver sand and spread it amongst the subbase. And then we're going to gently brush it in to fill in all the tiny cracks and get it very smooth. And for the final compaction, we're going to use our yard roller, as this is going to get us ready to go. And for the most rewarding part of the build, we're going to roll up the hitting mat, we're going to roll it out instead of dragging it, which could damage the subbase. We use the yard roller once again just to get rid of any air pockets that may exist. We check it for levelness again, and then we pull out the landscaping nails so we can get this thing secured in. For the final part of the project, we're going to cut the hitting mat to match the curves of the wall. And I'm just eyeballing it at this point, but if I do want to come back out and make it perfect, I'll bring a piece of chalk and draw the outline before I cut. It was then on to the final cleanup. We then take a minute to see how it looks, but most importantly, we were itching to start hitting those first golf shots. This is by far the best tee box we have ever built, and I'm going to spend a lot of time hitting the 196-yard shot to see if I can land it short and bounce it up and get it to stay on our putting green. But more importantly, it makes the hole play a little bit longer for Wilson, which will hopefully give me the edge in our future golf matches. Thanks everybody for watching, and we're getting very close to time to start getting our yard prepared for the 2024 Masters. So be sure to subscribe and follow along, and we'll see you soon.